up, Marcus?
What's up?
How you doing?
Awesome.
Finishing up day 2, Tulsa kickoff. Give me a little thoroughbred update.
Well, we got one left in it. Aiden wrestling like an animal, hitting shots left and right finally, opening it up, and he's seeing some good results from his willingness to take some risks. So pretty pumped about him right now.
Is that one of the things that, like an overarching, thing that you like to teach at Thoroughbred, the risk taking?
Yeah,
opening up. What do you break it down?
Sure. I mean, well, just the basic idea of the more you do something, the better you're going to get at it, right? So the more shots I take, the better I'm going to get at those shots. Especially if when I take them, I'm trying to be intentional with being better than I was last time. So if I just keep diving in on the same shots and not doing it, that may not help you so much. But if every time you shoot, you try to do it a little better than you did last time, and you take a lot of shots, there's no way you're not going to get better at it.
See, I was worried about winning in practice too much.
Me too. Me too. Well, I think that's all. A lot of what our coaching is trying to keep our kids from making the mistakes we made.
Yeah.
And get them further along than we were at certain times by maybe not letting them have to make as many mistakes and do as many things wrong as we did. I mean, I think there's a lot of that in all coaches. We know we're not perfect, and we know our kids aren't going to be perfect, but man, we made a lot more mistakes than we hope that they have to make to learn the lessons that we want.
Speaking of that, so how hard is it, like I said, bad words, the things like, I think as we get older and further away from wrestling, there's all these things that you look back like, man, I wish I did that different. And you as a coach, do you see other wrestlers with those same mentalities, and how do you?
It scares me to death.
Yes.
It scares me to death.
Is it so? The things that we struggled with, those are still.
Oh yeah.
Is it just typical among most wrestlers?
A talk we were just having was simple versus easy, right? Like the idea of taking more shots and more risks is not complex. It's very simple, but it's not easy. It's very hard. Right?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's not easy, but it's very simple.
Especially
it's not complicated.
Because if we're gonna go into that point, like at some age in weights, you're gonna give up more takedowns by shooting.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I think that comes down to what your goal is, right? Are you here because winning a Tulsa title is your ultimate goal, or because that's a goal that you hope to accomplish en route to bigger goals, right? And you never want to. I'm stealing this from one of my guys that I like to read a lot, from Jordan Peterson, and one of the things he says is, you have games and you have championships, and then you have life, right? And life is made up of a series of championships, and championships are made up of a series of games, right? You never want to do something to win a game that compromises your ability to win a future championship or future at life, right? And so within the rules of whatever game you're playing, you can do things that may be legal within that set of rules, but it doesn't mean that you should do them because they may not be beneficial for you in the long run to win a championship. Right? And it's easier to explain that analogy in team sports because, like a basketball team, you just pass it to your best player the whole season, you win all the games. But then when you get to a championship game, you have a team that has a bunch of those guys, and they all pass it to each other and work together, and you're screwed. And so if you've just been trying to win each game, you're not going to win the championship because you've hurt yourself and your ability to grow the people around you.
So let's talk about then, how do you balance that? Like when a lot of parents, they're gonna base your performance off their kid winning, and you're thinking about wins like, let's say, down the road in high school or getting your kid to college. How do you approach that as a coach? Because you need to have wrestlers, but you can't sacrifice, the long-term plan.
Here's how I look at it. I'm big with keeping a hierarchy of values, right? So like you have to know what's most important to you, and if you have a decision to make, you have to know if it's contradictory between two of your values, you have to know which one is more important to you, right? And when I started this thing, I knew that not the number one, it's not number one in my life, right? But one of the most important things within our academy is the sport itself, right? We're not bigger than the sport. My club's not bigger than the sport. I'm not more important than the sport. None of my kids are more important than the sport. If I take my approach, I can almost guarantee I will have people leave my club because they don't like the way I'm doing things. However, all of those kids are going to leave my club and go wrestle somewhere else. If I take another approach that could be way more harsher, generally those kids leave and don't come back to wrestling. So I have to put wrestling above myself and above the sport, just because I think that that's the right thing to do, and that's how we grow the sport. And I think people people see that over time, and that it creates a value in and of itself, right? The ability to have values and stick to those values is an ever more desirable trait as society progresses. It's valued more and more and more, and you can see it. The people we look up to and value the most, and how quickly our trust can be broken when they lie or deceive. We turn on people like that, because we feel very vulnerable that we trusted somebody. So I think it's a responsibility of coaches to take care of the sport and hold the sport in high regard, than they maybe hold themselves or their club or their individual kids. And that's, again, back to the simple versus easy. That's pretty simple. It's not complicated, but it's not always easy to do. It's a hard decision a lot of times. And you sometimes come out on the short end of it, but knowing that, same thing I'm teaching my kids, right? Is like there's going to be some things that are going to happen bad in the journey, but it should all be worth it in the end. In the end, there is no real end. The end is that constant improvement. And I got to keep coming.
Hey, thanks. You might as well plug your
my
podcast real quick before you go.
Getting Coffee and Telling Stories. Check it out. Subscribe.
All right, kick some butt, Marcus. Thank you.